I feel more present in my life when I choose to. And I realize it's a very small step that encompasses a huge chasm between being present in my life and that choice is always there for me. Do I choose to live, or do I choose to be comfortable? Here, in this moment, is who I am. And this does not limit me. Because from this moment on, I have choice. And it's not choice of everything, because no, I am limited by biology, time, space, my history, and the rest. And I have choice in this moment. What will I choose now? Having all of this available, I do believe has been life-saving.
And welcome to those family, friends, and colleagues joining us in person, and the many hundreds of people who are likely joining us on Zoom. We're here in the Stimson Green Mansion because this place holds many memories for me and for Wayne. I did tours of this house for many years and built a friendship with Patsy Collins, the granddaughter of C.D. and Harriet Stimson, whose portraits are directly behind me on the far wall. And she allowed me to research and publish the family's architectural history. And there are actually some volumes in the other room for you to take so you can know a little bit more. I'm also reminded of a certain New Year's Eve party. It was a dinner party that was formal, and we hosted here and organized it with our close friend Dennis Anderson, who will be from shortly. We slipped exquisitely back into the early 20th century, fine food, music, and a theatrical production in which Wayne showcased his flair for drama and song. But the high point was having a stand-in-the-room only crowd of friends, family, and colleagues gathered here on January 11, 2014 to witness us exchange wedding vows in front of the fireplace here. And I'll return to that in a little while. Many of you have followed Wayne's journey since the end of March through my regular email updates, often painful to relate all the bumps in the road and the precarious turns that hampered Wayne's dedicated efforts to improve the situation. A number of you willingly gave your time to feed him, to do massage, to do range of motion, to strengthen his upper body muscles, and provide company, conversation, and comfort. And for that, our family is so grateful. Because so much of Wayne's life was about the challenges and rewards of being present with himself and with others in relationship, whether in his work or in his personal life. We have structured today's remembrance being mindful of that. As you witnessed just now, Wayne will be very much present throughout the service, thanks to the foresight of the Haven in videotaping and audio taping and faculty. So Wayne is here to share with us his philosophy, his process, and what it's taught him. Ultimately, it was his mastery that gave him the strength and courage to move through the tragic experiences of the past months.
The first candle represents our grief. The pain of losing you is intense. This light reminds us of the depth of our love for you.
second candle represents our courage to confront our sorrow, to comfort each other as our lives are profoundly changed.
The third candle we light in your memory for the times we laughed, the times we cried, the times we were angry with each other, the silly things you did, the caring and joy you gave us.
The fourth candle we light for our love. We light this candle knowing your light will always shine. As we share this day of remembrance with our family and friends, we cherish the special place in our hearts, always reserved for you. We thank you for the gift your living brought to each of us. We love you.
hole in the air where the wind blows through. A hole in the air and it looks like nobody knows where you go when you go way out there, way out there. A hole in the air. He had a good life. He was the pride of his hometown. His dreams came true, his dreams will do when they don't let you down. He had a true love, as true as love. Their lifelines were intertwined for all the world to see. There's a hole in the air where the wind blows through. A hole in the air and it looks like nobody knows where to go when you go way out there, way out there, through a hole in the air. And there were times when they were timeless then. Seasons passed through window glass and they became best friends and the planets rolled around the great wall. The circumference of that kind of love is something to reveal. There's a hole in the air where the wind blows through. A hole in the air and it looks like nobody knows where you go when you go way out there, way out there, through a hole in the air. And if I were a raindrop and I fell into the sea, know where I had gone, but you never would find me. There's a hole in the air where the wind blows through. A hole in the air and it looks like nobody knows where you go when you go way out there, way out there, through a hole in the air. So we dance to celebrate, we sing to tell the tale, remembering the things we bring along the crooked trail, stumbling, brilliant, we are necessary fools. Diamonds in the tears, they all look like jewels. There's a hole in the air where the wind blows through. A hole in the air and it looks like you. Nobody knows where you go when you go way out there, way out there, through a hole in the air. Nobody knows where you go when you go way out there, way out there, through a hole in the air.
5 years ago, I was a regular guest at the Dodge Kreisman home at 5763. There was a certain rhythm in daily life there in those days, especially during the sunny summer of one particular summer. Evening meal preparation was on hold until Wayne arrived, and so he would. Stethoscope around his shoulders, tie slightly askew, papers and files in arm. A wardrobe change was in order. A small gin and tonic of appropriate proportion was mixed, and we moved to the backyard. At that time, a hard-packed grass lawn and patio area rounded by an aggressive wisteria and wizened lilac. Larry and I settled in chairs. Wayne stationed himself flat on the lawn, beverage in one hand and a small forked garden implement in the other. Wayne's post-commute and escape from the clinic therapy plan was to, in square-foot sections, night after night, remove crabgrass sprouts from the lawn and free the remaining grass to thrive. It was a task involving surgical precision, absolute attention, botanical expertise, and the driving ambition to make this small piece of the world a better and more beautiful place. He was aware of the costs of this project, one of them a certain regret that he could not find a more appropriate home for the excised crabgrass to thrive on its own. Wayne considered all dimensions in his care for creation and its creatures, in his care for patients and his colleagues, his friends, those he loved. He might have been, in the words of one of the Methodist hymns of his people, lost in wonder, love, and praise, had he not also been found in active participation and care for the healing of the world. It was this near lostness and total foundness that shaped Wayne as a person driven and blessed. Here, I stumble to consider that word blessed. We rather toss it around in my church community and in the secular world as well. Be quiet and count your blessings. I may have heard sometime when I was growing up, when it was clear that the blessing I was supposed to be counting was the fact that I hadn't been punished yet, but that I better not press my luck. So a blessing could be something good that happened to a person, or at least the absence of something bad. Or again, it's such a blessing that the Lord took him, was said at my ailing grandfather's funeral. And given the circumstances, his bad heart, that made a strange kind of sense. So a blessing could be something that appeared to be bad, but had good results. And then I once heard, oh, well, maybe it was a blessing in disguise. So blessings come in disguises. Our confusion about blessing is honest and real, and it is rooted in a profound misunderstanding. In the Bible, there are two basic forms of the word blessed. One is used to refer to God, as in Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, blessed are you, O God. Or as we worship in the Western Church, Benedicamus te Domini. The word here means adore, praise, or worship. The other word for bless is used to refer to people and means happy or fortunate. The Beatitudes from Matthew in Jesus' Sermon on the Mount are the most familiar examples. Jesus talking to a crowd, a strange mix of people, not much unlike this crowd listening today. Blessed are those of you who are poor, meek, pure in heart, peacemakers. Blessed are you. There is no application blank, no waiting period, no conditions, no preconditioned demands. Jesus pronounces them blessed, and it is so, not because of what they had done or been or said, but because of the creatures they are. It reminds me that there is no such thing as a blessing, only people who are blessed. We gather in memory of such a one this day. I was blessed to know Wayne for a little more than half of his life, and my heart is full to bursting of blessing. Yours as well, you who knew Wayne in some cases much longer and in many different ways than I. Your memories reach back as you recall his belly laugh, his wit, his wisdom, his instant recall of song and jingle verses, his fathomless wisdom, his patient brilliance in the healing arts, and his great well of what I must call, in my tradition, faith, lived out rather than talked about, his intractable and baffling hopefulness that made him so open, so searching, so completely present, so welcoming. Blessed are you. There is no such thing as a blessing, only people who are blessed. That's why it is impossible to count your blessings on this day, or for that matter, to count your lack of them. Because the things of life, which we may want to see as a sign of being one or the other, blessed or cursed, are not the measure of our worth. If I were to ask you to list the things that might make you happy, might make you feel fortunate, what you might have called blessings, what would you list? Other people, your work, having a family, a spouse, children and grandchildren who love you, good health, or friends. On the other hand, what would you include in the list of the opposite, those things that sadden, plague, or burden? Illness, losing a job, accidents, old age, a body that goes out of control, leaving you a prisoner in it, deaths of those you love, the unfairness of life. When we look at our lives in such a way and try to figure out which events are good and which are bad, We soon discover that it's impossible to say in which category some belong. Even when we think we can, it really doesn't make any difference, for we have profoundly understood what it means to be blessed. Blessed are you, and blessed be Wayne on his journey to total healing and fulfillment. Amen.
I'm Marie, I'm Wayne's sister. I distinctly remember the day Wayne was born. Grandma Geiger came all the way from Pennsylvania to take care of Bruce and me while Mom was at the hospital. I was 4, Bruce was 6. While Grandma was making supper, Bruce and I argued about whether the baby was going to be a boy or a girl. And I really wanted a sister. And I would not leave Bruce alone, stubbornly insisting I was right. It would be a girl. He finally got so frustrated that to shut me up, he picked up a bottle of milk from the dinner table and poured it right over my head. He got a spanking, I got a bath. On the day baby Wayne came home from the hospital, we sat on the front porch stairs in the August sun, waiting and waiting. And finally, the car pulled up at the curb. And Mom carried him up the walk and leaned down to put him right in my arms. "Here's your baby brother," she said. And from that moment, he was mine. Wayne and I shared a bedroom from that day until he was about 9 years old, sometimes squabbling, but more often trading stories in the dark as we fell asleep. We continued to share stories the rest of our lives, and I will deeply miss all those winding conversations. Our grief at his leaving is palpable and deep. And yet we understand that dying was also a release for him. I want to share with you a series of poems I wrote over the last 5 months between his fall and the death that tracked the journey to that understanding. It's called Grief Quartet. April 2nd, 2020. Miracles may happen, you said. Not in a moment, but in millimeters and months. Lying there on your hospital bed, struggling for breath enough to talk, laid out flat by a fall. Not your first, so you know the rehab routine, but this time there's likely no coming back to before. Cracked cervical spine interrupting signals to hands, legs, and feet. So we prepare for the aftertime. Struggling to surrender to the slow waiting. With nothing else to do in this pause, I light my St. Jude candle, patron saint of desperate causes, and hold you in love. July 1, 2021. I'm getting close, you whisper, and I know what you mean. You have become nearly transparent, only bones and skin holding pain. At the same moment, we both catch our breath, tears just behind our eyelids. I am here, I promise you, and I am, and will be as hard as it is to think about you leaving us behind, letting go of whatever still tethers you here. And if close becomes now, our task will be to gently help you untie all the intertwined cords of affection, memory, and obligation, binding you to this body which daily disappoints and betrays you. To weave these strands and strings into a nest of love, to hold you as you take flight. September 3, 2021. The moon's perfect beauty shines down from a late summer sky, gilding leaves silver in the darkness. And I wonder how she and her cool splendor, dazzling disk on bright velvet, can continue to shine when you are suffering so. Shouldn't she hide her face in her hands and weep as your bright light begins to dim and drift toward a horizon where we cannot follow, where no storm, nor night, nor pain can reach you? Shouldn't the world stop turning as we gather by your bed to hold and kiss you as your mind wanders away in a morphine fog? Shouldn't all the birds cease their singing so that we can hear the quiet whisper of your voice as you say goodbye? Shouldn't all the flowers close their petals and bow their heads in grief as you prepare to leave this world? September 5, 2021. The silence woke me, and in that moment I knew you were gone. Curious how palpable spirit is, and how clearly I knew, even before crossing the room to touch your sweet face, still warm, but no longer animated with the essence of you, released in one last sigh. Even in the last weeks of fever and pain, submerged deeper than slumber, your soul was present in the room, connecting to all who love you. But now, departed, your body an empty vessel. That river of your life force navigated from the wellspring beginning of your life through miles of years and bounded by beautiful banks of work and family and love as you watered and nurtured wider and wider fields of harvest, now has finally run down through the delta of this last illness to drain completely into the vast ocean of spirit.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Wayne Dodge's older brother, Bruce. I'd like to welcome you to this memorial service. Wayne, you were such a loving, caring, and wonderful brother. For example, with the death of my wife, Midge, and my fiancée, Doris, from cancer, you suggested I attend a grief workshop. You helped me go to the Haven, a special retreat center where you taught classes. This helped me during my tough times after their deaths. You were there. When I lost both my hearing aids, you and Marie helped me financially to obtain new ones. You were there. When I needed help with financial matters, you helped me with this problem. You were there. At my Seattle Choral Company auctions and concerts, you helped support us. You were there. Giving men's chorus tickets every season. What a treat. You were there. Using your doctor's side to diagnose my fibromyalgia. You were there. I enjoyed so much our holidays, playing your piano and singing carols in harmony with you and the family. You were there. Wayne, I can't believe my younger brother is gone. In our later years, we had such a wonderful relationship. As the song says, I know you're up there in the air. You are there.
And another thing that I've always appreciated about Haven is that it is embedded in an idea of I must act. And I must acknowledge that even when I choose not to act, I am acting. And I am responsible for each and every one of those choices. And that's me and that's mine. I was great at naval racing and being challenged to grade. And if you choose to continue to do that, that's okay too. But just be aware that's your choice. And then don't whine about what isn't happening in your life if you're not actually choosing to act. Acceptance is not passive. It's a process of looking actively at what is the best I can recognize it. Look at what is and go, this is what is. But I'm more with Angela Davis, who said something like, I've stopped trying to accept what I cannot change. And I now work to change what I find unacceptable. That the acceptance of what is not the end of it. Again, there is the step into action. And it's not the action of throwing myself against a wall, trying to change the what is. Seeing the what is, going, okay, and now, how do I act to change? And somehow that will make a difference. if nothing else to me, the unexamined life is not worth living. But is the unlived life worth examining? And even that's been the foundation. But if I stick myself in the examination, I just trap myself in the navel gazing, then I'm not alive. And the actual living is standing forth. I feel more present in my life when I choose to.
When Wayne and I were planning our wedding, we asked longtime friend Linda Reiser, who delighted in updating Gilbert and Sullivan's Hatter songs to fit any occasion through her magic. And to prepare for it, she asked each of us to separately send her some comments to refresh her memory of our time together. And here are some of the things I wrote her. I'm constantly taken by his consistent, ongoing whispering, I adore you, and I love you, or thank you, with no particular occasion in mind. How contrary to me, these are words that do not come easily to me. I often catch him looking at me with his gentle smile that says, without words, I adore you. He supports my work, not just by patting me on the back, but by actually attending events. He sat through dozens of my lectures, to the point where he can probably present them verbatim. The same is true with Historic Seattle tours. He's willingly played bad cop to my good cop. He's the guy at the back of the group saying, and we're walking. And God bless his geriatric training. He's so good with the 80 and overset with back, hip, and foot problems. Which is another thing I admire, his patience with people. I'm much quicker to go to a negative place. He is basically optimistic, tolerant, and curious about why people do what they do and think what they do. I just want to rave about it. He's always generous with me and with others with his time, his understanding, and his expert knowledge. He does not approach people with an idea of changing them. Invariably, his mantra is, you are okay just the way you are. That's certainly why his patients loved having him as their doctor, and why he was able to reach so many hearts and minds through his teaching at Behavior. Our wedding ceremony recognized and shared with our community of family and friends what we already knew, that the love, affection, honesty, and respect we had for one another had not diminished as we shared our lives. I can do no better than share with you our intentions that day back in 2014, right here, and that hold true to this day. I said to Wayne, you have been my husband to me under the guise of partner for all that time. You have been my ground, my center, my home, my mirror, and my support. You are my complement in so many ways, and our different minds and approaches sometimes meld seamlessly, and sometimes not. Through it all, your integrity, open-mindedness, your patience, and encouragement guide me, and your adoration, your often spoken love for me, while uncomfortable for me to hear and be open to, warms my heart. Marriage did not change that. We continue to do our back and forth, our close and separate, our listening and not, for years ahead. It was familiar, it was comforting, and it served the purpose. Wayne said to me at that time, for over 30 years now, I have had the privilege and pleasure of being with you, and now I get to declare legally what I had previously proclaim publicly. You are the one I choose to be with. I've always cherished your core honesty, decency, and integrity, even when I have been the one squirming on the receiving end. I adore your smile when it comes and love exploring the world with you. In my life, I've chosen you as the one with whom I would explore my weaknesses and strengths. And I am, by far, the better person for having done so. Thank you. In our vows, we specifically left out the traditional phrase, in sickness and in health, until death do us part. We did not want to require that sacrifice of each other. Neither of us expected that we would be challenged to face such a tragic life change these past months. But we were true to our vows. He said, I take you to be my spouse, to share with you the everyday and the exceptional, to take pleasure in your company, to respect and have patience for our differences, to listen and also to hear you, to care about you as I have for over 31 years and as I intend to shall do the rest of my life. I'd like to share a video with you of Wayne from my 70th birthday program organized by Historic Seattle at my favorite building, the Art Deco Northern Light Tower downtown. It began with a piano performance by Don Clement of 20s and 30s music at the Steinway showroom there. Wayne had secretly rehearsed with Don the song Not a Day Goes By from Stephen Sondheim's Merrily We Roll Along. And as Dawn completed her performance, and I was about to thank her, Wayne stood up and began to sing to me. It brought tears to me and to the audience, and it does every time I watch it. So get your tissue ready.
Not a single I keep thinking inside this forest deep and dark, and walk along this path that's winding through, gaze into each shadow that lies silent, and waiting and watching you. Though the forest seems so dark and still, unpenetrated by the smallest light, soon the path continues up the hill and opens under starry, starry night, and all is well, and all is right, all is well. There is safety in the starry, starry night. Untie the boat and slip out in the stream, into the mighty current deep and wide. Up above a storm is gathering, the shore is growing farther from my sight. Though the river runs so cold and fast, unchallenged by this tiny boat I row. By and by the rapids all are past, and there is comfort in a gentle river's flow, and all is well. I'm safe and sound. All is well. There is peace upon my river homeward bound.
There was a tribute from his Chinese friends who taught for many years in Shenzhen. Lots of wonderful comments came through on the document, if you looked at the document, and courtesy of somebody that Marie knows at Western Washington University, they translated them. So really wonderful comments from a part of his life that I only experienced from knowing that he was gone for another month. At Haven, they knew he is the Haven widow. In March of 2020, Dia Lloyd produced a podcast interview for Haven. It was intended that they would interview a number of faculty people, but this is the only one that got done. She interviewed Wayne as her guest, and as Dia describes it, we talked about hope in dark times. Their conversation had special significance as it took place not long after the pandemic was declared, and actually right after Wayne and I had returned from our trip to Spain and Portugal just before the gates closed. We've excerpted a small part of this remarkable interview to give him the space to speak to us all and share his wisdom. It's a gift. Wayne, in his own wonderful, articulate, thoughtful self, describing and almost predicting the very challenges that he would face a year later. He was constantly addressing faith, hope, pain, fear, radical acceptance, and being present in these last months of life change. His belief system kept him going for as long as he chose that path. In the weeks since his passing, so many friends in his support network have been reminded of the times when they were struggling with their personal growth and relationship challenges and would invariably want Wayne's wisdom and guidance. What would Wayne say? I believe his responses to these questions provide us all with answers to that question. And I remember how often he would say to me and to others, "You are okay, just the way you are."
Hope is a loaded word in that it implies a attachment of self outside of the self, and it's future focused and moves me away from myself. And in our Haven lingo, the word we contrast with hope is that of faith. So this is not the belief that my mother had that she called her faith. It is, as Ben Wong defined it, faith being the felt assurance of the continuation of being. And I always like to be really clear that it's not the continuation of my being, but that somehow existence is. I'm not even going to say that it continues. Existence is, and if I am present, I'm in that existence, and it's outside of time, it's outside of the Newtonian physics, and we're really dealing in the quantum uncertainty. It's the amount of attachment to the hope. And when I'm standing more in my faith, I can look at that desire for attachment and have room for myself wanting to be attached desperately and go, and it may not be so. This outcome may not happen. I may be attached to it desperately, and reality is large enough that it may not happen at all. So acceptance is also one of those loaded words, because so many folks, think of the serenity prayer, let me accept that which I cannot change and change what I cannot accept, and to know the difference. And acceptance in this, I think, is not putting up with or coming to some comfort with what is, but it is the radical looking and going, regardless of my desire or the rest, this seems to be what is in this moment. And when you say there's a certain comfort in it, but it's it's not comfortable. It's actually quite painful to be in acceptance that this is what is. Acceptance is a place of immediate engagement. Acceptance is being present to what actually is here, which can also be the acceptance that I don't like what is here. That can be part of my acceptance. And I don't have the entitlement to have what I want to have happen. So I'm thinking of the Frank Herbert quote from Dune around fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. That is, in facing the dark wolf, facing my dark side, facing the darkness around me, and feeling all that's there, that in that pain is also the end of suffering. The suffering I have is through the attachment that I won't be afraid. The suffering I have is the attachment that this is not the way it should be. And if I can face this fully, the suffering comes to end. Now, the fear doesn't. But fear's fear. It's the suffering that ends. The challenge in my life is, do I choose to be present to what is actually here rather than setting up the circumstances to have that? And in the dark times, I think you're asked to actually open more. But if I'm going to open more, you know, Brene Brown has been so brilliant in talking about this. If I'm going to be vulnerable, you know, I can't select what I'm going to be vulnerable to. Openness takes courage. And if I'm going to be vulnerable, I have to be willing to have as much pain as joy.
So as many of you know, Wayne chose Recompose for the disposition of his body, that vessel that held that beautiful spirit. Death is profound, momentous, and beyond our understanding, but Recompose offers a way for us to dispose of the body that's both practical and meaningful. So it connects the end of life to the natural world using the principles of nature and a process called natural organic reduction to gently transform human remains into soil, which then can be used to regenerate the earth that supports us for our whole lives. And you know, Wayne was a gardener. He loved to garden. As Dennis reminded us, when he got transplanted the crab for us. On October 1st, in a lovely ceremony, the Recompose staff laid Wayne's body in a cradle surrounded by wood chips, alfalfa, straw, flowers, and Japanese maple leaves that the family collected, and a fern that Wayne had nurtured for over 40 years. The cradle was then placed into a Recompose vessel and covered with more plant material. And the link to the video of the ceremony is on the back of the program if you wish to view it. Wayne's body and that plant material will remain in that vessel for 30 days, microbes breaking down everything to the molecular level, transforming his body, that vessel that held that beautiful spirit, and the plant material to about a cubic yard of nutrient-dense soil. After the soil cures for another month, we're going to collect it. And we invite any of you who are fostering the multitude of Japanese maples in his backyard, or perhaps you've planted one in his memory, or perhaps you just have a plant at your house that you would like a little of Wayne to nurture. Larry's going to send out a little notice when the soil is ready, and you can come with your bucket to collect a little of Wayne. He would be delighted. And I want to share with you the song that I wrote for this laying in ceremony.
Lay you in and lay you down. Leaf and bark, branch and bone. Return your body to holy ground. All the circle coming home. Skin and sinew turn to soil. dark, rich earth, moist and cool, all the circle coming home. Will spread your spirit beneath the trees into the roots of time, and all the flowers will whisper wild wishes into the shining light, wild wishes into the light. Say you in and let you go. Mystery of all unknown, eternal ebb and flow, all the circle coming home. Will spread your spirit beneath the tree into the roots of time, and all the flowers will whisper wild wishes into the shining light, wild wishes into the light. Lay you in, lay down, leaf and bark, grass and bone. Return your body to holy ground. All the circle coming home. All the circle coming home.
Thank you. And Les, in case you don't have a Japanese maple that would need Wayne's nurturing, Marie has provided you with seeds to take on your way out. They're on the door, and you can save them and plant them in Wayne's soil, and they're guaranteed to grow. But they're many crabgrass. Wayne's sense of humor hasn't been necessarily addressed in a lot of these more serious things, and many of you commented how wonderful his wit was and how we enjoyed that. So I don't want to end on too heavy a note. So even at the laying in, I read what Marie had found, which was a poem by Lee Hayes, who was, for those of you who remember the Pete Seeger group, the Weavers, he was one of them. A little lighthearted, but it is. It's called In Deep Earnest. If I should die before I wake, all my bone and sinew take, put them in the compost pile to decompose a little while. Sun, rain, and worms will have their way, reducing me to common clay. All that I am will feed the trees and little fishes in the seas. When corn and radishes you munch, you may be having me for lunch. Then excrete me with a grin, chortling, there he goes again. It will be my happiest destiny to die and live eternally.
Now, O Lord, support us all the day long of this sometimes troubled but also beautiful life, until the shadows lengthen and the evening comes and the busy world is hushed. The fever of life is over and our work is done. Then in your mercy, grant us safe lodging, perpetual blessing, holy rest, and peace at the last. Amen.
I wanted to thank John Carrington for the wonderful harp music. It was somewhat challenging to find certain pieces that Wayne would like because it had a playlist that existed with over 2,000 entries. We selected from them. We also have, for your pleasure, the famous marzipan cake with mocha and raspberry filling that we had in our wedding. And you will see there's a photograph of him taken by Cesar Sudrosa another week before he died on his birthday, August 24th. I did manage to bring him a slice of marzipan cake for him to indulge in when he was still able to swallow. So, please enjoy the rest of the afternoon and spend some time chatting, talking, sharing memories, and